When we talk about powerful rulers in African history, why are women so often missing from the picture, or just turned into myths? We hear names like Queen Amina, Queen Nzinga, and Yaa Asantewaa. But they're treated like legends, not leaders. The truth is, they were real military commanders, brilliant political strategists, and fierce defenders of their nations. Colonial history didn't just forget them, it actively tried to erase them. These women weren't ruling from some isolated, symbolic throne. They were leading actual armies, negotiating face-to-face with European powers, and protecting their people under unimaginable pressure. So why were their stories dismissed as folklore or exaggerations? Not because there was no proof, but because their very existence shattered colonial ideas about who could hold power and what a woman's role should be. Let's set the record straight and look at what they really accomplished. Let's start with Queen Amina of Zazzau and what is now northern Nigeria, who reigned around the 16th century. She didn't just inherit a kingdom, she built an empire. Amina was a warrior queen who personally led her cavalry into battle. She conquered dozens of cities and neighboring territories, securing vital trade routes for Zazzau to protect her new empire. She commissioned the construction of massive earthen walls around her cities, known as Ganyu or Amina or Amina's walls. Amazingly, some of these walls still stand today, but here's what's often missed. Her campaigns weren't just for glory. They were strategic moves for economic dominance and long-term security for her people. She was building a legacy of strength and prosperity. Now, let's move to the 17th century, to Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba, in modern-day Angola. She ruled at the peak of Portuguese colonial expansion, a time of intense conflict. But Nzinga didn't just fight, she outsmarted her enemies. She was a master of diplomacy, deception, and alliance building. She negotiated directly with the Portuguese governors, stalling their advances for decades. When diplomacy failed, she used warfare. She even formed clever military alliances with rival European powers, like the Dutch, to fight the Portuguese. Nzinga understood a critical truth, that direct confrontation alone wouldn't work. Strategy was the key to survival, and survive she did, ruling well into her old age. A rare feat for any resistance leader facing the might of European empires. Finally, we have Yaa Asantewaa of the Ashanti Empire in present-day Ghana. She wasn't born a ruling queen. She was a queen mother, a respected political advisor, but not a military commander. That all changed in 1900. The British governor demanded the Ashanti hand over their most sacred object, the golden stool, the very symbol of their sovereignty and identity. As the male chiefs hesitated, unsure how to respond, Yaa Asantewaa rose. She publicly shamed their indecision and declared she would lead the fight herself. She organized and commanded the Ashanti forces in what became known as the War of the Golden Stool. She turned a deep cultural insult into a powerful military resistance. Although the Ashanti were eventually defeated and she was exiled, her defiant leadership ensured their spirit and identity never broke. So why were these incredible women downplayed or turned into myths? Because none of them fit the neat little boxes colonial powers created. They were women who ruled, who fought, and who often outmaneuvered and outlasted the men they faced. This was inconvenient for a narrative that portrayed African societies as primitive and women as powerless. So, their stories were labeled as folklore, emotional outbursts, or simply unbelievable. But archaeology, oral traditions, and even European written records confirm their profound impact. They weren't exceptions to the rule. They were the products of sophisticated African political systems that recognized and celebrated female power. Queen Amina built an empire. Queen Nzinga negotiated colonizers. Yaa Asantewaa turned cultural pride into an army. They weren't extraordinary just because they were women. They were extraordinary because they were exceptional leaders, period. If you want to hear more African history told without erasure, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.